Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be sharing all of the series that I'm currently reading. So I'm going to share series that I'm caught up on, series that I am in the middle of, and series that I need to read multiple books in order to catch up on. And as a caveat, these are all series that I consider myself to be actively reading because there are some series that I'm in the middle of that I haven't really felt motivated to pick up the next book in. So I'm not including those on the list. I'm really just including the ones that I'm focused on either catching up on or finishing, because I do have a couple of completed series on here. But first things first, I have been a tea drinker exclusively since I graduated college. I drank a lot of coffee in college. It always made me nauseous, but I just did it for the caffeine because I also worked full time when I was in school. So I really needed it. Since then, I've been drinking tea, but I have been kind of trying to do lots of new things in my life lately, so I'm giving coffee another go, and so far I am enjoying this cup. I do hope that everything goes well, and hopefully I won't talk too fast for you in this video because that does tend to be a side effect of coffee. I am excited about this development and I wanted to share it with you. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and start talking about the books. So, first up, we have The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. This one is number one on the list because I've been caught up on this series for longer than any series on this list because it's been a bajillion years since the last book came out. So The Kingkiller Chronicle follows Kvothe, and he is recounting his personal story to a storyteller or a chronicler, and he's telling it over 3 days, and each book takes place over the course of a day of him recounting his story, and we kind of flash back and forth between the past and the present where he is running an inn. I've always loved this series. I hope that one day we'll get to find out how it ends. Next, I have a new addition to the caught up list for this year, and that is The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I'm so excited to finally be caught up on this one, and I'm pretty thrilled that I'm going to be able to read the 5th book along with everyone else when it comes out and just be totally excited and invested in the next installment at the same time that everyone else is. I think it's going to make for a really enjoyable reading experience, but I'm really excited about it. I've been following Brandon Sanderson's weekly updates very religiously because I'm I gotta know how close we are to getting this next book. I feel like this series is really difficult to explain and everybody kind of already knows what it's about. First book honestly feels like a prequel to the rest of the story, but this is definitely one of my favorite fantasy series ever, so very, very excited to get more of it. Next up, I have The Band by Nicholas Eames. I really love this series. It is basically like reading a really funny, musically inspired D&D campaign, and it's just so enjoyable, but it's been quite a while since we've gotten the last book. We do have a title for the 3rd book that was announced years ago, and we still don't have any news on the actual book itself. So I'm really looking forward to whenever we get more, but this is another one that I am caught up on. I just realized that I can actually add Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree to this list since we are getting another book in the series. It's actually going to be a prequel. It's coming out in November. Technically, I have an ARC version of it, so I'm planning on reading it closer to publication if I can wait that long. Love this cozy fantasy. We're following an orc barbarian who decides to leave her days of adventuring behind and open up a coffee shop in the small town of Thune, and it's just full of lovable characters and amazing descriptions of food and coffee. I'm very excited to read the prequel. Next up, I have The Eldest Curses by Wesley Chu and Cassandra Clare. This one, we've also not gotten any news about the 3rd book for quite a while, but I'm hopeful that we'll get it at some point. There's only supposed to be one more book in the series. This is set in the world of the Shadowhunters. It follows our original crew, and each of these books actually takes place during the Mortal Instruments, so it's kind of just fun side quests for the characters, very low stakes, but really fun to just revisit and get more time with some of these crazy Shadowhunter kids. Next, I have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I really enjoy this series. It's very light, fluffy, whimsical fantasy. We're following a character named Evangeline Fox, and she kind of gets involved with Jax, who we met in Stephanie's first trilogy, the Caraval trilogy, and it's just fantastical and fun, and her descriptions and her prose are so enjoyable. I always read these so quick when they get released, and I really like the UK covers, and my beautiful fox pages that I have on this one. The next book's actually going to be coming out in October. It was supposed to come out in September, but it got pushed back. But I'm still glad that we're going to be getting it this year. And it's going to be the last book, so this will soon be a completed trilogy for me. Then I have the Stolen Air duology by Holly Black. So this is a spin-off series to The Folk of the Air, which is one of my favorite series ever. I think that Holly Black just writes the world of fairy so well. And in this one, we are following a character who is from Folk of the Air, so I don't want to say that in case you haven't read this book yet. So I'm just excited to revisit this world. It's only going to be a duology, so there's just going to be one more book coming out. It should hopefully become a completed series in the very near future. I did a little shelf reorganization and now I'm struggling to find any books. But the next one is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I really enjoyed this book. It's a historical fantasy and we're following a character who was touched by death but survived. And she ends up on this estate and she solves this murder mystery by teaming up with death. And it was just really good. It was one of those like vibes kind of books, very much in it for the atmosphere. Thought it was a lot of fun. It actually just got expanded into a trilogy as well. So the second book's coming out in like a week and a half. So there's a good chance that this could move to the have to catch up on list until my copy arrives, potentially before this video gets posted. But as of now, I am caught up. Then I have The Last Fenestra by Emily Theed. I really enjoyed this book. It completely took me by surprise. I was not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as it was, but I'm so excited for the next one. It's coming out either in December or early January. I can't remember. The relationship dynamic in this one was like so much fun, and I really liked the Italian-inspired fantasy world. So very excited to get more of this one, and again, hopefully have this as a completed series very soon. Then a very recent addition and one of my favorite books that I've read this year, read the only book in the A Dowry of Blood series by S.T. Gibson. I'm so excited for the next one in Education and Malice. It comes out in February. It is a companion, so it's not going to be following the same characters, though I'm very hopeful that we'll get character cameos because these characters do exist in that world, and seeing as how they're vampires, there's a good chance that they will be around even if it is set further in the future. S.T. Gibson's writing is just next level. Amazing. So excited. Love this book. Another recent addition to this list is the Letters of Enchantment duology by Rebecca Ross. I recently read this one and you'll actually be getting a reading vlog for it very, very soon. And it's like exclusively a reading vlog, actually for this and Fourth Wing, which is the next book on this list. But I really loved this series as well. This is another historical fantasy and there's a war happening between gods that have like major Hades and Persephone vibes, and oh my god, I just devoured this one. I could not put it down. It was so excellent, and I'm so glad that the second book release date got pushed up to December, so I'm not going to be waiting too much longer to find out how this story will end. Then, as I mentioned, Fourth Wing, which is the first book in the Empyrean, is another one that I very recently read, and so I am now caught up on the series. I believe the next book's coming out in November. I didn't love this one as much as other people seem to, but I also did not hate it the way that other people seem to. I had kind of like a middling opinion, but I did find it highly entertaining, so I will be picking up the next book when it comes out. Then I am caught up on the graphic novel series Vox Machina Origins, which is based on the online D&D game Critical Role, which I absolutely love. I thought that these graphic novels were so much fun, and I cannot wait to get the next volume. I really hope that they'll announce it soon because they haven't said anything. They have said that like they are coming. They've kind of been doing like a lot of stuff, so that's probably the delay in that, but really, really loved these like so much more than I expected to. 2 of the 3 5 stars, and then I think the third one I gave like 4.5 stars. So love this series very, very much. Another comic series on the list is also a Critical Role series, and that's Critical Role Mighty Nine Origins. These are very short stories that tell the origin of each of the characters within the Mighty Nine. I'm totally caught up on these. I can't wait for them to come out with more. I think we still have to get the stories for Caduceus, Bo, and I feel like I'm missing someone. Caduceus, Bo. No, we got Caleb, we got Molly. Might just be Caduceus and Bo. I'll probably remember who we're missing like right after I finish filming. But it could just be those 2. Though I would actually really like to see one for Essek. That would be very awesome. But yeah, these are a lot of fun, though these ones I do feel like are kind of hit or miss. Some of them in the series were so good, and then other ones were like pretty thrilled to say that I'm also caught up on Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. We were supposed to be getting the final book this year, but unfortunately it's been pushed back. I do really hope that we'll get it next year and maybe like earlier in the year. She does tend to publish in November. I'm really hoping that they'll push up the publication date to like winter, spring. I would take whenever they want to do this. This is a really fun middle grade fantasy series about elves, and we are following a girl named Sophie who is from the regular human world, and then she's always had this ability where she can read people's minds, and she ends up finding out that she's actually an elf and she actually belongs in this totally other world, and there's a lot of stuff going on there. It's a lot of fun. Then a couple that I do not have next to me, so I'm also caught up on the American Royals series by Catherine McGee. The fourth and final book is coming out really soon. These ones are so much fun. They are an alternate present kind of fantasy. They're really not fantasy. They're really contemporary books with one twist, and that being that America has a monarchy versus a democracy. So we're following the first family, and it's very dramatic. It's very much like a Gossip Girl kind of story, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm excited to read the last one. I'm also caught up on the Finlay Donovan series by Elle Cosimano. This is a fun, cozy mystery series. We are following a main character who accidentally accepts a hit to off someone's husband, but it's because they overhear her in Panera describing her next book's plot to her editor, and the person mistakes her for a hit woman, and she ends up accepting the job because she has a little bit of writer's block at the moment. It's pretty fun, and I'm excited to get the next book. I think it's coming out in January. And then the last one on this list is Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. This one, so this one's a little bit tricky because technically there are 3 books in the series, but the third book hasn't been published just yet. It's going to be publishing within the next couple of days. For now, I have read the first and second books, so I'm caught up, but in a few days, this would be in another category because I haven't read the third book just yet. They all take place at a Christmas tree farm in a small town, and each of them is a companion novel. It's a romance series, so we're following a different character in each book and seeing their love story. It's a very cute, fun, fluffy read. And that brings us to the next category. So in this category, I only need to read 1 book in order to either catch up on the series or complete the series. So here we go. So first I have the book that actually sparked the idea for this video, and that's The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden. I am over halfway into this, so this series will officially be moving to my completed series tab probably in the next 2 days. I'm so excited to finally be reading this one. It's about time. I've been saying, I think since last year, that I wanted to read the last book, and I just hadn't gotten to it. I'm actually buddy reading it with my friend Alexa from Alexa Loves Books, and both of us are really, really enjoying it. This is a very slow burn, Russian-inspired fantasy kind of fairy tale story. Next on this list is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I just have to read House of Sky and Breath in order to be caught up, and I'm actually in the middle of a big Sarah J. Maas reread, so I started way at the beginning with The Assassin's Blade. I am just about done with Empire of Storms, then I'm going to move on to all of the ACOTAR books, reread House of Earth and Blood, and then finally read this one, so I will be caught up in time for House of Flame and Shadow. It's a time. Next is the Alex Stern series by Leigh Bardugo, so I just have to read Hellbent and then I will be caught up on the series. I personally don't like to read them as soon as they come out because it seems to take a while between books in the series, and I don't want to be waiting for years to read the next one since I'll likely forget a lot of what's happened. I'm not sure how soon I'll be reading this one, but I am excited to do so at some point. Then I have the Atlas series by Olivia Blake. I read the first book, absolutely loved it, and I just have to read the second book in order to be caught up, and the third book's coming out in January, so I definitely plan on reading this in the very near future. I'm thinking probably September, October, since it's a nice dark academia read. I feel like it fits in pretty nicely with those months. In this one, we have 6 magicians who are competing to be inducted into the Alexandrian Society, but they only induct 5 members every decade or so. So there are 6 people competing and only 5 of them will make it. So actually also not on the shelf is the Villain series by Victoria Schwab. I read the first book and I just have to read the second one in order to be caught up. And Victoria Schwab actually recently announced that she'll be writing a third book within the series. However, I feel like enough time's passed that this is one where I'm going to want to reread the first book before I just dive into the second one. I really enjoyed it when I read it, and I have no doubt that this is going to be a really fun reread. This one is actually a sci-fi book, and we're following two characters who are attending like the same college together. They're like rivals, and one of them is a villain and one of them's like a superhero, and their dynamic is just so much fun. Then I have Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is the third book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, and this is another one where enough time has passed that I really need to reread books 1 and 2 before I read the third book and complete the series. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do that this year. I think it's probably something that I will do next year since I have so many rereads planned between all of the Sarah J. Maas. I'm also rereading the Shades of Magic series along with a whole bunch of other booktubers, and yeah, I feel like my reread capacity is like full for the year. Then I have The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim, and if all goes to plan, I'm hoping to read this next week. I currently have it out from the library, but I just need to finish my current reads and then I'm going to move on to this one. So again, this should be hopefully turning into a completed series within the next, I would say week. And then I also have Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lin Tan. This is the concluding novel to the Celestial Kingdoms duology. I really enjoyed the first book, and I'm very excited to read the second book. This is also an Asian-inspired fantasy, and once I complete this, I can take it off of my list completely. It will be a very exciting day. Then a couple of more books I don't have next to me. Well Traveled, the fourth book in the Well Met series, is the last one that I have to read in order to catch up. It has been announced that Jen DeLuca is writing more in the series, so I just have to read this one and then I will be up to date. These are just very cute Ren Fair romances, and I really enjoy them because I love seeing all the time spent at the Renaissance Fair, and I also really love that we get so much of the first couple, from the first book. They are pretty heavily in every single book after, and they're just my favorite, so I would honestly just read a whole other book about the two of them. I usually read these right before I make my yearly trip to the Ren Fair, so I probably will read this one in early September. Then I need to read Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. This is the third and final book in the Friend Zone trilogy, and these are, again, romances. They're all companion novels, and I really love Abby Jimenez's writing. This is the last book of hers that I have left to read until she publishes something new, so that's why I've been hesitating to pick it up, because I don't like the idea of not having a new book by her to read. And then new to the list is the Rachel Crowell series by Megan Golden. Megan Golden is one of my favorite thriller authors. She just writes such excellent stories. Her newest book, Dark Corners, follows the same podcaster, Rachel Crowell, that we followed in The Night Swim. So I'm really excited to get to this one. I think it's going to be a pretty quick read, and I will likely be picking this one up pretty soon. I don't know if this is going to be the last book with Rachel, or if Megan's planning on writing more of her, but either way, I'll either be caught up or finished in the very near future. The next category of books are series where I have multiple books in order to either finish the series or catch up on it. So first off, which I've been talking about a lot this year, is Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. So I read the original Red Rising trilogy, absolutely loved it. I haven't started the sequel series just yet because I binge read those first 3 books. I don't know if I can wait a full year for the last book in the series. Again, I've been saying this so much, but I feel like I really probably will just read these soon because they're such a good time. I really love them, and I could use more Red Rising in my life. Next is the Married to Magic series by Elise Kova. This just very recently got moved to this section of the list because I still have to read A Duel of the Vampire Lord, and then the 4th book, A Duet with the Siren Duke, just came out 2 days ago, and actually still waiting for my copy of that one. I did order it, but I haven't received it yet. But yeah, I will have to read both of these. These are all just really fun fantasy romance novels, and they all follow a young girl who is kind of blindly getting married to an elf, a fae, a vampire, or a siren, and then you get to see them fall in love after they already got married. Then I have the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. So I actually think this is another one where enough time has passed that I really want to reread the first book before I read book 2 and book 3. I had tried reading book 2 in the past, and I ended up DNFing it pretty early on into it because of issues that I had with the male character, though from what I understand, they do get resolved. So I do want to give this one another shot. And again, I read this like pretty early on into when I started delving into adult fantasy. And I feel like I could potentially have a different opinion of the second book if I read them closer together. It had been a lot of time between reading book 1 and reading book 2. And I remember I felt like the first one had a really slow start, but then I ended up loving it by the end and I gave it 5 stars. So I do really want to continue and finish the series. Then I have the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Cassandra Broadbent. So I read the first book, really enjoyed it. I still have to read the novella and then I have to read the second book in order to be caught up. And then I do believe there's actually a standalone set in the same world too that's not considered to be part of the series, but I do want to obviously read that as well. Then I have the Dreamer trilogy by Maggie Stiefvater. So this is another one where I really want to reread all of the Raven Boys, reread the first book in the series. I wasn't the hugest fan of Call Down the Hawk, but I want to give it another shot. And then I do want to read the next 2 books and have that completed because I do really love these characters, this world, and I'm hopeful that some of my favorites could show up in the next books. I am also reading the Crave series by Tracy Wolff, so I am up to the second book, which is Crush, and there are 6 books in the series, and it actually just recently completed, so I'm excited to read all of the rest of them. I'll probably end up binge reading them, then I'll be able to complete the series as well. This one takes place at a like paranormal boarding school and there are vampires, and I just remember that the first book was a lot of fun once we finally got to the vampire portion because they're pretty long, and in the first one it was like everyone was keeping the secret from her until like, I don't know, I almost want to say it was like 70% through the book until we finally got to the good stuff. So I'm hoping that the rest of the series will be good. Then I have a series that I've been reading since the beginning of the year, and that's the Full Metal Alchemist series by Hiromu Arakama. I'm currently up to volume 9 of 18. 9 or 10. I might be like halfway through volume 9. I'm not 100% sure, but I've just perpetually had one of these on my night table since the beginning of the year, and I've been very slowly catching up on the series. I do tend to prioritize novels that I'm reading over manga, but I try to read like a couple of pages every time that I get a chance. So I hopefully will dedicate some time to actually reading more of this at some point, but I feel like there have been so many other books that I've wanted to read that this one's been a little bit on the back burner. Then I have Witch Hat Atelier by Kamame Shirahama, and I read the first volume of this one, so I still have volumes 2 through 10, I want to say, to read. The first one I read so quick and I really enjoyed it. I think that this is going to be a really fun series to read in October. I am planning on prioritizing this one and getting caught up on the series. It's actually still being released. I really like the art style in this one. Then I have Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, so I'm currently on volume 8 of 10, and volume 11 is supposed to be coming out in October, so this is one that I think I will probably catch up on in time for the next volume. And then there's really only one volume after that, which is crazy. I can't believe that the series is coming to an end. It's been so many years running and it took a long hiatus in the middle, but it's such a great sci-fi comic series. Okay, so those are all of the series that I'm currently in the middle of reading. I had wanted to include a little section of like a couple of series that I wanted to start before the end of the year, but I feel like this video has already gotten pretty long, so I will just say one of those series, and that is the Live Ship Trader series by Robin Hobb. I want to at least have Ship of Magic read before the end of the year. That was like a big priority for me and I still haven't gotten to it. I really wanted it to be like a summer read since it's nautical, but I just didn't do it. And I love Robin Hobb so much. She's one of my favorite authors, having only read the Farseer trilogy and knowing that there's like so many more good books of hers in the realm of the Elderlings that I have to catch up on. So yeah, that is my number one series priority for before the end of 2023. So those are all of the series that I'm currently reading. Thankfully, the majority of series on the list are ones that I am caught up on. So I'm just waiting for the next book to come out so that I can read more. But I also would really love to complete the series that are completed that I already have the books for so that I can shorten that spreadsheet of mine. But that's all that I have for this video. Let me know some series that you are reading. Let me know if you also like keep count or have a spreadsheet of the number of series that you're currently in the middle of. I find it to be really helpful. I really enjoy updating it every time that I read another series book. It's just like one of those small pleasures in life. It's also occurred to me that you might actually want to see what my spreadsheet looks like. So here's an example for you in case you want to make one for your own. Basically, I keep a column for the series title, then the series status, so whether it is a series that has been started if there's only one book in it, ongoing if there are multiple books, and completed if the series is completed. Then I keep a column for my status, and I like to organize them, as you can see, by series I'm caught up in. My next category is series that are completed that I'm in the middle of. I also keep a column for the series author, a column for the next book in the series, the title of it, the number of books that are currently in the series, the number of the book that I last completed, the next book's release date if it's known, or I would just write complete if the series is done, and then my percent into the series. And then my last column is just like personal notes. So for instance, like the Kingkiller Chronicles, there are 2 novellas and I've read one of them, and I don't count those as full books. So they're just kind of in my notes section. And then you'll notice that at the bottom of my spreadsheet, I have a couple of tabs. So this is my in progress series tab. I also have a tab for series I have DNF'd. I have a tab for a series I've completed. I have a tab for series that I would like to start. And then I also have tabs for comic series and manga series, though those ones are not very organized. So I don't really use those tabs. I've just kind of incorporated what I'm currently reading into my other tabs. But that's all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!